soon as COVID is done, everyone's going to go back to the office. 9 to 5 will be abolished.
Welcome to Wharton Tech Talks, everybody. I'm your host, Ibrahim Bengali. Today, we have the wonderful Chris Farah with us. He is the all-star one-year member behind the Wharton Tech Talks team, one of 3. Super excited to have him here, and he's a little bit of our resident productivity geek. So say hello to the people, Chris.
Hey, everyone. Really excited to be here.
And we are incredibly excited to have Nash Ahmed with us. He is the founder of Undock, which is an AI-enabled productivity platform that was just recently funded, $1.6 million from big old names like Lightship Capital and Bessemer Venture Partners. And personally, I know Chris and I are 100% aligned on this. One of the few things we are 100% aligned on. We think Undock is phenomenal, interesting. We have no idea why someone hasn't done this before. So excited to have you here, Nash.
Ibrahim and Chris, thank you very much for having me.
Before we jump into Undock and the founder story and how you came up with this phenomenal idea, I think we wanted to get a better understanding of this crazy, ridiculous world that we're in right now, right? You know, we've got COVID completely disrupting work. And when I think of calendaring, the first thought of where I would use that is in the workplace. My first question to you, Nash, is being kind of an expert in this space of where people are working and how people are working. How have you seen this like COVID disruption? Where were we? Where are we now? And kind of where are we going?
So I have a unique timeline about COVID that I'd like to share. I have a startup, so I make pitch decks. My pitch deck in October and November of last year said the world is becoming increasingly remote and increasingly distributed. And I'm building the product for that future, for that eventuality whenever it should come. That's what I'm saying to investors, saying it's going to be here soon. On Twitter, I replied to a post to Naval Ravikant saying that 9 to 5 should be and will be abolished because it doesn't make sense. It's a 100-year-old construct that was made for like factory work and not for knowledge work. I said now people are also forced to co-locate within an office for reasons of accountability and forced collaboration. And I said there are better means to get to those two things. I said, unfortunately, I think it's going to take another 100 years or some groundswell event to change the behavior sooner. I did not predict the pandemic, but everyone would like the freedom of their schedule, the freedom of their time, sans the globally infectious, deadly disease portion, especially for knowledge workers. Most of your work is not done when you're sitting in a meeting. It's either when you're away thinking or away working or building or doing or drawing or whatever it may be, and you need the time for that. But that time could be 7 p.m. at night or 4 a.m. in the morning when you have an idea. Why are you boxed into 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the office?
Is the grass always greener on both sides? I mean, or is that just me, right? Like, I think when I was working and always in the office, I felt exactly what you're talking about, right? I absolutely wanted the freedom and, you know, to do my deep work when deep work made most sense for me. But now that I'm locked away in my apartment, I want nothing more than to go back to the office and work next to other people. So I at least have that like energy and motivation, leave alone the productivity and the collaboration. So where does the middle ground come in, hopefully in a post-pandemic world?
It has to be a hybrid solution. So there's the remote work fanatics are like, hey, nobody at offices are dead. Remote work skeptics are like, oh, you can't build a $1 billion business remotely. Well, look at GitLab, look at some of all these other companies that are coming out. So there's a happy medium. Maybe not even a happy medium because it may be like 70% one way, 30% another way, but there is an answer and it's usually not on the edges of the spectrum. I feel the same way about software. Like Slack is a great application. And part of their marketing was that we're killing email. I know Stuart Butterfield didn't really believe that he was killing email as part of their marketing. But the idea that Slack would replace email, Slack is a better communication channel than email, but it's not practical for a lot of email use cases. So, you know, businesses now within their organization, maybe they spend, 60 to 70% of their time in Slack and 30% of their time in email. There's not going to exist a world where it's all Slack or all email. Same thing for remote and in office work.
Do you have like a sense of what the different remote use cases are? Like this type of company will probably need to be more in person than not in person. This type of company could be totally remote. Do you have a way of segmenting like what different types of solutions will work for different people?
I think all knowledge work can be like 80% remote as long as the leadership is of the right mindset to manage that. You do not you do not need 100% co-location for knowledge work to happen. Right when I started the company, like a month or so in, I went to a 4 days in the office, 1 day remote, and then we switched to 3 days in the office, 2 days remote. And then the plan was at the end of this year or beginning of next year to start with 2 days in the office, 3 days remote, and leave it there. Think about the amount of time that employees save, not just in commuting hours per week, but in getting dressed, preparing a meal that you're going to bring to all these things that you can just now do. You're saving 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours per week, right? That either if they're a go-getter and they want to work the extra hours, they can put that towards work, or they put that towards their own happiness. And
do they though?
They don't right now because there's nothing that they can do.
I guess that's fair.
Like you can't do anything really, depending on where you are.
Got it. So it's the conflating factors of COVID plus the remote work that's leading to a lot of that. Yeah.
So I think there'll be a backlash, sort of like a, what do they call it, a dead cat bounce, where as soon as COVID is done, everyone's going to go back to the office. Not everyone. Yeah. A good portion of people go back to the office like, oh yeah, we really missed this. And then 2 weeks later, they're going to be like, you know what? Can we maybe like half the time we're going to the office? That's what's going to happen for sure.
And then when you say 80-20, do you mean 80% of the workforce is not coming in? Do you mean you only come in 80% of the time? Like, what does that mean?
Everything is about time for me. I think coming into the office maybe 20 to 30% of the time makes the most sense.
How does that look from an office perspective? Everyone will still need to be in this, like Silicon Valley will still be Silicon Valley, New York will still be New York. You don't think that the geographic dispersion will stay?
There's definitely an exodus out of Silicon Valley. There's definitely an exodus out of New York, especially if you have the strength and power within your position to say, hey, you said we can work wherever we want through 2021. I am the best engineer you have. I'm not coming back and say, hey, do I want to retain a really good employee or go try to find another one? And that's why I think it's going to be up to the leadership to determine what actually happens. But what will also happen is the behavioral change that needed to occur is happening right now. And there are going to be people that now demand remote work. If you're not offering that at your company anymore, they're just going to leave to the company that does offer it. So this is now the new perk. So where you would have to have like a cafeteria and gym and like free Uber or whatever it may be. Now you need to have this remote work policy just as an employee retention tactic. So
are those things going to go away? I just transitioned to tech. Please tell me they're not going away.
No, I don't think so. At the larger companies, they won't go away.
At some of the smaller ones, maybe it's more about the remote. That's more about bang for the buck. Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be remote. They're like, I'm not going to spend on the cliches like ping pong tables, but they might not even get an office. Like my thought right now, as soon as the pandemic hit, I changed my financial model. Like this was March of last year. Like I'm not getting an office until April. This was before people were like, it's going to last for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, a year. I said, I'm not getting an office. Now I'm not getting an office in April of next year either. I may get like a small co-working space for like 3 or 4 people, maybe in the fall. With a great product like Undock, you can coordinate the usage of that resource so you never have 15 people trying to use it on the same day or something like that.
And how do you think about, right, as we kind of move to this co-location, or for example, you all don't have an office, how do you think about building collaboration, building connection, when you're distant, especially like as you see, right, knowledge work, not just developers and engineers being able to be remote, but, I know product managers, ops and things like that. But how do you build that connection with your manager, with your team, so that you can work really well together?
It's not the same. Collaborating right now, especially if you're doing like whiteboarding and whatnot, it's definitely not the same. And the key, I believe, is us not trying to exactly replicate the whiteboard, right? In a digital space. Like we have to find when was the whiteboard invented? Hundreds of years ago? I don't know, right? Are you telling me that there is no better medium for sharing or no better process for sharing information than a whiteboard? We just haven't discovered it yet. So we have to figure out like what is the best way to feed and share information. It may be in the AR, VR space where you're doing something similar to whiteboarding. Obviously, the tech is not there for everyone to just jump into an AR or VR space for whiteboarding, but my assumption is it's probably closer to that than forcing people to go back into the office just so they can use, a whiteboard. But that experience is different. Like sitting in an office with 3 or 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, taking turns at the whiteboard, throwing ideas back and forth. that's intense. It definitely feels different than talking about it over Zoom or Google or Undock.
What are some of these other techs? I mean, I really wanted to ask you about AR, VR, and you brought it up. But like, as we think about how remote work is changing, is AR, VR really the big next thing? Or are there other things that you think are going to change the way that we work together, either in the workplace or outside the workplace?
I hesitate with both AR and VR in their current state because they've now been around for like 10 solid years where the tech was like good enough and getting close to affordable, but the productizing of it hasn't quite yet hit. So I don't know if that's either people just aren't ever going to be comfortable living or working in that type of environment long term. It is a little bit odd. Maybe when it gets down to you put on a pair of glasses, right? And you have that AR, VR experience, then people will be, and it's affordable too. It's not like a $3,000 pair of glasses. When it gets down to that level, I think, yeah, it's obvious that that's going to be
how far away do you think that is?
5 to 10 years.
Okay, I mean that's within the scope of our bold predictions section. So that's not crazy far away. Are there other things that you would think are gonna? I mean, people talk about AI or ML. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the thing, but like in your mind, what are the top things other than AR, VR?
Oh, AI is going to change literally everything. Like we're putting in so much. You don't see it. We're not overt about it, but there's so much AI involved in everything that we're doing at our company. And I believe that as a software company, if you aren't figuring out a way to incorporate it, somebody's going to build exactly what you're building and then incorporate AI and then just crush your business. So AI is definitely going to change the way we work and the types of businesses that we build going forward. It's almost like in the early 2000s, but even going into the late 1990s, like if you didn't have a website, right, your business was going to start to lose ground to those that have websites and have a dominant presence on the web. I think going into like 2024, 2025, if you're building a software company and it's just like, so I've been having this conversation with one of my co-founders lately. And like the big problem with, I'll call it out, some competitors in the space, and I won't talk about anyone specifically, like they are no longer a tech company. In 2020, the product that they're building is not a tech company. They're actually amazing distribution machines now. They have 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, or whatever users. And there's this flywheel effect that's growing and growing and growing and growing it. But the actual software that they're providing is not that of a commensurate of a large tech company. So they figured out something. They figured out a distribution model. They figured out a channel. They figured out a problem and a solution, and they're charging for it. But that problem and solution can be put together. Again, not to take away from those types of things, but that can be put together and replicated by anyone, right? So the challenge is going to be, where are you differentiating from your product today, just like from the solution set, but how are you going to maintain that leverage? And AI is that solution. So I think it's like 2010 or something. I read something like knowledge is the only sustainable competitive advantage. And machine learning is 10,000 million trillion billion times better than any sort of learning that any human can do. So you need to have that advantage on your side. If you're not using these technologies, you're going to fall behind.
Where do you think are like the biggest places, say in like work collaboration, that are ripe for AI to really disrupt incumbents, change the way we do things, supercharge our workflows?
Where everyone is not running to. So there's 3 parts to a meeting, or there's the during and there's the after, right? So the during, everyone is focused, especially because of Zoom and it went kaboom. I didn't time that there, but everyone is focused now on video conferencing and video, and they're like, I'm going to throw in this AI like noise canceller, and I'm going to these filters and background and all this other stuff and whatever, right? They don't, in my opinion, they don't understand that that is a race to the bottom. Video is going to be a utility, just like dial tone, just like internet. Video itself is going to be a utility, right? So I think the two places where you can win by implementing AI is before the meeting. So the scheduling primarily and the preparation. And then after the meeting, what are you doing with everything that happened during that meeting? How are you documenting? How are you disseminating information? That's where the awesome power of AI should be deployed. But I welcome everyone to go build a video conferencing platform with all these AI bells and whistles. Today, you'll do great.
I know. I wish I would have had, an AI to help me with those action items at the end of a meeting and maybe send out that email so I don't have to.
And you see companies popping up that are now like, hey, you have remote meetings and now you can't like share notes and whatever. And here's an easy way to do it. But again, that is, in my opinion, not going to be the billion-dollar tech company. It's a software solution, but you're not really building like frontier tech if you make, a note-taking application.
When you phrase it that way, it doesn't sound very innovative.
Those things are really hard too. To build it really well. So like a Notion is essentially, the most powerful note-taking application. That's really, 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 really hard. And they are at this point in time a tech company. But in 2025, there will be a Notion that takes your notes for you, right? Like you talk, you say how you want things to show up on your screen, and it just does it, right? So Notion will either go that route or they'll be displaced at some.
How does that play out? It seems from what you're saying that this is a very kind of federated marketplace where there's a bunch of smaller companies doing a bunch of different things. And we've seen the more that the ecosystem effect happens, the better things happen, right? The Apple ecosystem, the Google ecosystem. So in this remote work environment, what is the race to win that? Do you focus on something small and then grow? And then how do you do that sustainably and scalably? Like as you're thinking about the 10-year plan for your business, because you're a founder, you're a visionary.
So yes, the tried and true methodology is like find something small. There's so many people in the world. Like you find one small thing that you do better and just keep iterating and iterating, become the best in the world at that. And then you start to expand on it. That's one approach. And I think that works a lot. But I think at least in my particular case, my moonshot is to kind of solve the problem holistically. And I'm going to call it like going over the top. Like I'm trying to build at the highest possible abstraction layer, which is for me is solving mutual availability. And you can say, oh, well, what is that? Well, that's scheduling. That's, I won't go into there's a couple of things that we're about to release in 6 to 8 weeks that I won't talk about, but it's all around mutual availability. But that falls into like, oh, well, you have a booking page, okay? And then you have like this super awesome tool that works inside of your email, predictive scheduling, mutual availability, and all these other things. But I think for me, it's going all the way to the top. Like everyone on the planet is already on one gigantic calendar. That calendar has just not been programmed. So essentially, that's what Undock is, and that's what I'm trying to build at Undock. But I have to, again, productize it. So I have to I'm going to give you this little widget here that works in your email. I'm going to give you a booking page. I'll give you a calendar. I'll give you like this conferencing and documentation tool and all the other stuff. But really, what I'm trying to do is take what is already happening and has been happening since the beginning of time and program it. We are all working off of one timeline, right? There's only one timeline that's real, that exists, that we know of.
Alternate dimension,
multiverse here.
But everything that's happening, everything that has happened, and everything that will happen is on a timeline. And that information, if you believe that, this is an example, I don't believe this, but if you believe that we are a simulation, right? All of that stuff is already programmed, right? So if I can extract as much data from the air, everyone's availability, calendaring, preferences, and all these other things, and help people eventually get to that meeting time that they were going to get to by, exchanging emails, exchanging calendar pages, whatever it may be, messages. If I can do that instantaneously, just pull that from the future. This was when this meeting was going to happen, and I have all the data around it. I'm going to tell you that time is now. I'm going to tell you what time that is right now. I think that's like the biggest, most powerful thing you could. I literally think if we execute properly, we will have 1 billion users on our platform.
Ooh, you heard it here first, everybody. Or maybe I think you heard it here first. 1 billion users.
Yep.
I mean,
there's only 2 software platforms that can claim that, and that's Microsoft and Google. So,
yeah. So
yeah.
I think what is fascinating about your business, among many things, is I feel like you're tackling what is most valuable to us, which is our time, right? And I think COVID has really done an interesting job of making us aware of our time, because we went from running at 100 miles an hour, a lot of people, to stopping all of a sudden, and then having to reevaluate, what in the world am I doing with my time, right? And so I think people are coming to, like, collectively, us as a species are coming to a realization of how valuable our time is. And what your product does is it tackles that. It says, your time is valuable. Let me, one, save you time, and two, help you better manage how you're going to use that time.
100%.
I mean, we got to dive into Undock now. I mean, we're here. We're at the verge. Can you just tell us your vision for this company? What does this company do? And just educate our users.
Doing a bit of a progressive disclosure. So we're going to be in some version of stealth for probably another year. So when we first announced what we were building in June, July, it was a scheduling widget, right? And scheduling widget works inside of your email. We call it predictive scheduling, but it works inside of your email, much like autocomplete. So you know how now if you're typing in Google or in Microsoft, you type hi, and then it's like, oh, I know who you're talking to, so I'm going to put that person in there. You just hit the tab, it puts it in there. Hey, I wanted to follow up on, oh, there's a subject in your email, so maybe I'm going to autocomplete that for you. So the way that works, right, there's a whole awesome mechanism behind that. Like, okay, what have you been talking about? Who are you talking to? What does everyone else, when they say this first phrase, what is logically what you're going to say next? And we're going to suggest that to you. So we've taken that same similar premise and done that around your schedule. All right. So you're typing in an email and now you want to schedule a meeting. And the first version for us is very simple. Let's say I'm typing to both Ibrahim and Chris here, and they don't have Undock, right? So I'm like, hey, Ibrahim and Chris, let's get together. Definitely want to record this podcast. I'm free. And I call on the Undock key. And what it's going to do is going to pop open this small, well, first, as soon as you hit it, it's going to make a suggestion. Like, all right, Tuesday, 1 p.m. Why? Well, I don't have a meeting Tuesday, 1 p.m. I've told Undock that I work from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Or so I'd prefer to have most of my meetings in that time frame, if whenever possible. But particularly, I like to have my meetings in the middle of the day. So I've told Undock this. So whenever possible, the first suggestion is going to make, just including me, it's going to make that suggestion, right? But I also have an existing calendar. There's meetings on it here. There's meetings on it there. And there are 3 billion active calendars on the planet, and they've all made this same exact decision that I am about to make, right? So I can take all of that historical data and say, it is very likely that you will want to suggest this time. It could be wrong, but it's better than you flipping back and forth, whatever. So it'll take that suggestion in, and it'll give me a time. And it'll give me another time, another time, another time. I can insert as many times as I want. Or I can insert a link to my page, a booking page, which does the same thing. It'll dynamically present to whoever that user or non-user is some times that make the most sense for me. Not just my entire calendar availability, just the times that make the most sense. So that's great, and that's awesome, and that's powerful. So I send those times to Ibrahim and Chris. I sent you 3 times, right? I no longer have to think about it because I'm going to open my next email, very busy, and someone else wants to meet with me. I go, okay, cool. I'm free. Call on Undock and search a couple more times. Go to the next email. And it's never, ever, ever, ever going to double book you. So this is something that you're already doing as you're managing your calendar and your meetings. You're already doing this, right? So that's one way. Now, the power of it is when we get to 1 billion users, we don't have to get to 1 billion users, but just say, I've already met you, right? Every time I go to meet with you now, you've signed up for Undock. It's going to do all of those awesome things that I said it's doing for myself. And it's also going to incorporate Ibrahim's schedule and Chris's schedule and your preferences and your scheduling behavior in there to get you to what we internally call the least agonizing meeting time. For our users, we say the best time.
Least agonizing, LAM.
Oh, I like that. So, because this is essentially what you would have come to. There's two different thought process here. If you were to send times back and forth manually over email without Undock, you would come to a time that is okay, probably most likely less than optimal. Or if you were literally sitting in a room together with your calendars open, looking at it, All right, saying, all right, I don't really like to meet on these days. I hate meeting early in the morning. You hate meeting early in the morning. Like, you can literally sit there and do that. Or instantly, all of those things that you've ever done around scheduling is now incorporated into this decision, into this suggestion. And we're reducing what time all of us in this case, would very likely end up selecting if we were to go through either of those processes. And we just show that to you.
Is it learning based on meetings that you schedule and things that you choose? Or is there like a training data that goes into it?
Now, this is where we get into some proprietary stuff. So there are a few different models running, and it's actually way more than a few. But I'll give you the two strongest ones. I think they're probably pretty obvious. So we have global learning data, right, which is the heaviest weighted one because there's just not simply enough data points on an individual. Secondarily, we have your individual, like your calendar has hotspots, right? So we learn from that. We also learn how you interact with our suggestions that we give you. So if you're like changing them frequently, or if you're a person that, it looks like you suggest one time per day for each time you're proposing a meeting, we're just going to say, okay, well, here are those 3 times across the next 3 days. That's your style. So we learn from how you use the tool, and we learn from global data, and we learn from your personal scheduling behavior historically and moving forward. So all those things are incorporated, which is great. So it's way more powerful, all of those things, when it's just you and the other person doesn't have Undock, because then it's like literally like, this is the one time. I know it. No matter what, this is literally the best time for just you. But it's equally as powerful when you incorporate that with everyone else, because instead of me suggesting 4 p.m. for me, because it is literally my best time, I know that 1 p.m. is closer to a better time for the 3 of us, so I'm going to suggest that time first, right? So that's the first thing that we released, and then we flipped it around and then started doing the same thing for inbound. So we'll process, and we're shipping another version on Monday, which is super nuanced and really understands the context of the times that are proposed to you. So you only schedule theoretically 50% of your meetings, right? So you're scheduling 50%, and the other person is scheduling 50%. Obviously, some people that are, outbound prospecting schedule 90% of their meetings. Other people that are like CEOs are taking them inbound a lot of the time. We do the same thing to help you figure out how to manage your inbound meetings. We process, plain text, but we also process calendar pages. So if somebody's like, hey, I'd love to meet with you, here's my calendar page. Hopefully it's an Undock calendar page, but if it's not, if it's a Calendly or an X.AI or a HubSpot calendar page, we're going to take that entire process of you clicking on that link and then going to your calendar and then going back to that link and then going to your calendar and then filling out the form and then hitting enter, then getting the email, then hitting accept and we're taking all that out. You just hover over that link and we'll tell you which times work for the both of you. And in one click, the meeting's confirmed and put on everyone's calendar. So that is the awesomeness of what we have released and put out there. We built that in the last 6 to 8 months, and we had been building about a year and change prior to that, right? So we just decided to release this really awesome function of our calendar. And I would argue, although people have seemed to love it, so we're focusing on that, I would argue that that was the second most awesome feature.
You're teasing the life out of us, man. That's not fair.
That's why I said there's some things. I'm pretty sure we're going to announce the other awesome feature of our calendar at our next event in January. But I believe that to be the second most awesome feature of the calendar. And then there's the actual calendar itself, which is what we're building. And not to go into too much detail, we are going to elevate the calendar to its proper status. Right now, even within Google and Microsoft, it's like, the calendar is like this little tiny utility, like it like works, it like does things, like shows you your events. The calendar, in my opinion, is truly the most powerful piece of software. It should be the most powerful piece of software because it's the closest to your reality. It is, your calendar is your timeline, right? So again, at the highest abstraction layer, the calendar should be above your inbox, not below your inbox. Your calendar should be above your Slack and all these other messaging channels. It definitely should be above any like conferencing type of tool. Calendar network is a much better indicator of your real true network than your LinkedIn. So we're going to elevate the calendar. We're not giving away too much details, to its proper status. We're going to reinstate it. It's the biggest thing that's happened to the calendar since the Gregorian calendar.
Huge. I feel like it's a huge paradigm shift. And you know, I don't know if you guys have that nightmare where you wake up and you think you're late for something, you miss that meeting with an important employer, you put in the wrong date in your interview, you get a call, you're like, oh, I'm late, oh no. And I mean, it just sounds so incredible, right? To kind of, you know, erase away all of those problems. You know, one of the things I saw with Calendly was it felt a bit impersonal. Someone sends you a link like, oh, fine, 30 minutes. I'm not free for a month. And I'm like, what? We need to talk like next week. And I love, right? You pull in all of this information and it will suggest a mutual time that's good for both of us. So it's interesting, right? As we think about technology and how it creates better, more personalized experience rather than removing and creating these transactional experiences that you sometimes see with Slack.
Like Calendly is, like, it's good. It solves problems in a couple, more than one, in quite a few different scenarios. It's good. Like, so if you have a service business or you're a salesperson and really there's no other way for you to do it, you know, Calendly can solve your problem. I just feel that Undock solves that problem even better in a more nuanced and, like you said, personal way. And you actually touched on something very, very important. You talked about how software can personalize experience rather than make it transactional. And I'm going to steal that. So you may hear me repeat that somewhere because that is really, really, really important. We talk about how, you know, Undock like restores social etiquette and norms, because this is what you do. You're trying to exchange times with someone. You're not trying to ask someone else to say, hey, I'm more important than you, or I'm more busy than you. You go figure it out. Now, with that said, go back to what I said about the calendar links. I'm actually solving that problem for Calendly or Next.ai or HubSpot, because once that, it's good right now, but it's going to go so fast and it's going to be even better that it won't matter when you share a calendar link, because again, we'll get to 1 billion users. Everyone will have, even if they use Undock and Calendly or Undock and Next.ai, it will not make sense to not create an Undock account, right? So what you would actually be doing with a calendar link is not an imposition on the other person to go find the time. It's like, here, I've granted access to your bot. You've granted access. I mean, I've granted access to my bot. You've granted access to your bot. Let's let our bots talk to each other and just spit out the time. Have your calendar talk to my calendar and figure it out.
Wow, that almost sounds like a, I don't know, like a post Zapier world, right? You think of like all this technology that's not connected. I love Zapier, but right, you have to pay, you have to connect, you have to kind of tell it what you want. But in the future, right, you can have whatever product that fits your need, and it can be Calendly, it can be Undock, it doesn't matter. You know, I mean, you should be on Undock, but you also don't need to be to get the value immediate.
And what's super interesting about it is this. I think you're framing it as a paradigm shift in calendar, but it's almost like the platformization of the calendar, right? Because what does this unlock, right? Because he's smiling, so I'm hoping I'm hitting some of the things that he's going to release in a couple of months. But like, I was just having a conversation, I don't know, last week with a friend who was just talking about how hard it is sometimes to keep in touch with people that you actually care about. It's not that it's not the false networking where you're like trying to game the system and, you know, meet someone, but like, no, I have this friend and they just, because I'm busy and life's crazy and my timeline is just full of a bunch of other stuff, they fell off. And I think if the calendar comes to the forefront of the platform, or is one of the forefront platforms, this opens up a whole new set of things that you can do with it, whether it's analytics, whether it's time management, productivity, habits, connections, networking, everything, right?
No comment.
Okay. So we hit something. One of them is right.
Well, here, there's a thread, because if you look at what the first alpha version of Undock, I kind of gave away the farm a little bit, but it was not put together very well. I'm super critical on how the product looks and functions, and that was like a first pass at it. But it had regular phone calling in it, had video conferencing, it had an email application built in, SMS, direct messaging. There was a full suite. You could live in an Undock world. Now, that version of it is never coming back, but stay tuned.
Fair enough. Oh my God, Nash, we have like 17,000 more questions we want to ask you. You're supposed to be the visionary promoting your business, but here you've made me the like biggest fan and cheerleader for you. But we wanted to ask you our closing question, which is, what is your boldest, most interesting, unique prediction for how the world's going to be different in 5 to 9 years? Like, what do you believe in your heart that's going to happen, even though it seems like a complete moonshot to everyone else?
Video conferencing may become federated. Instead of you hosting a meeting on a certain platform, the platform is now tantamount to your cellular phone. So I can call somebody on T-Mobile if I have AT&T. I can call somebody on a Verizon if I have Sprint. A bold prediction, someone may go out and try to federate video services. So there may be a way cross-platform, even iOS, Android, to do video calling. I think video is a utility. I think it's going to be proven that it's a utility now. If it's a utility and it's software-based utility, Amazon's going to win, by the way. So just brace yourselves. Everyone's going to be using Amazon's piping in 5 years for video. So maybe Amazon will be the one to federate video. Who knows?
Bold predictions. Amazon was not the company in the back of my mind, but now it's forefront. So
in like 2011 or 12, I was looking at both Amazon and Facebook. I'm like, their trajectory that they're taking, they don't want to build their respective businesses. They want to be the only business on the planet. And I said, they're both going to get into the workspace. You have to. If you're going to own everything, you have to get into the workspace. And so like Facebook Workplace, when it came out, I was like, I knew it. And they're not done. Facebook Workplace is not done. Like, they started off with this Slack thing, and then they bought this company called Redkicks, which is an email platform. It's actually a very, very good email platform that was beta when they purchased them. So Facebook may, in the next 5 years, do something around email and try to have a full G Suite competitor with their Facebook Workplace product. But Amazon will not be far behind.
Interesting. I'd never even thought of G Suite being knocked off of its throne. So this is,
I don't think it'll be knocked off. It's just a really, really good product, but there's so many people in so many corner reaches of the world that you literally can't have everyone. And there are people that to this day have never heard of G Suite. And I was saying this about Zoom, right? So when I was first starting casually talking to investors here and there, and even just recruiting employees, they're like, why are you building video conferencing though? They're like, Zoom is out there. Like, do you understand that you live in a Silicon Valley bubble and Zoom has like 4 or 5 million? Now I seem foolish saying it, but I'm like, Zoom has like 4 or 5 million users using it right now. And that means just in the United States alone, there's 50 million people that don't use it. And I guarantee you half of them have never heard of Zoom. And I was like, okay, proof point. There are people paying me 10 times as much for conferencing as they could just by going next door to Zoom if they had heard of it. They haven't even heard of it yet. So there's going to be a special little pocket of people that live in a Facebook Workplace world. It'll be their email. It'll be their Slack. It'll be their video conferencing. Like, they just launched Facebook Rooms as a consumer product. They're going to fold it into their business product. I bet you anything they will. So beware of the Amazon, beware of the Facebook. And I hope Apple gets into the race through acquisition. Wink, wink.
Well, you heard it here first. Everyone, be warned. Nash, thank you for joining us. It was a phenomenal and fun conversation. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Nash.
No problem. Thanks, Ibrahim and Chris, for having me. Had a great time.